The screen door slammed behind her with a crack that echoed like a gunshot in the still evening air of Elwood, Georgia. Cora froze, her fingers still damp from scrubbing the supper dishes, as her sister's voice sliced through the humid dusk. "You think I don't see it? The way you linger when she leaves." Lottie's words hung there, venom wrapped in silk, pulling Cora back into the house where the children, her charges, her shadows, stirred in their sleep upstairs. In that instant, the world Cora had built from scraps of duty and silence cracked open, revealing the raw underbelly of love she had tried so hard to bury. She had always been the steady one, the branch that bent but never broke under the weight of family. Born into the humid embrace of Elwood, a town where the pecan orchard stretched like forgotten promises and the church steeple loomed as judge and jury, Cora Harlan had learned early that love was a currency best spent on blood ties. Her parents, gone too soon to a car wreck on the backroads to Savannah, had left her with Lottie and their sprawling brood of cousins and kin, all tangled in the web of Harlan pride. At 18, fresh out of high school with dreams of art school in Atlanta flickering like fireflies, Cora had traded her sketchbooks for aprons and lullabies. "You're the heart of this family," her aunt had said, pressing a worn Bible into her hands. And so she became that heart, pumping life into the chaos of Lottie's 5 children, mending hems and hearts, silencing her own whispers in the dead of night. Elwood wasn't kind to outliers. The town square, with its Confederate monument gathering dust under azalea blooms, whispered judgments through magnolia-scented breezes. Folks here married young, stayed put, and let the river of tradition carve their paths. Cora's days blurred into a rhythm of sun-up suppers and midnight fevers, her world shrinking to the creak of the old farmhouse floorboards and the sticky fingerprints of toddlers on her sleeves. She loved them fiercely, the way little Elias's laugh bubbled like creek water, or how Mira clutched her thumb during thunderstorms. But love in Elwood came with ledgers. Lottie, with her sharp chin and sharper tongue, had clawed her way to respectability through a hasty marriage to Harlan Mills, a man whose lumber yard kept the lights on but whose wandering eyes kept the peace fragile. "We need you, Cora," Lottie would say, her voice softening just enough to sting. "Who else would do this for us?" And Cora did. She rose before dawn to fry bacon and braid hair, walked the dirt paths to the one-room library where she borrowed dog-eared romances that ended in white dresses and picket fences. In those pages she traced fingers over words that tasted like freedom. Women who chose, who ran, who claimed spaces beyond the porch swing. But reality was the weight of laundry baskets and the echo of Lottie's heels on the kitchen linoleum, demanding more even as she gave less. Cora's own life, a quiet footnote, unfolded in stolen moments. Sketching wildflowers in a hidden notebook, or staring at the stars from the attic window, wondering if the universe held room for someone like her. It was in the library on a rain-lashed Tuesday in early spring that the first thread of something different unraveled. The storm had chased patrons away, leaving Cora alone with the scent of damp pages and the hum of the ancient radiator. She was reshelving volumes on Southern folklore when the door chimed, admitting a gust of wind and a woman who seemed carved from the pages of one of those forbidden novels. Tall, with hair the color of wet chestnut bark pulled into a loose braid, she shook rain from her coat like a dog shaking off the river. "Afternoon," she said, her voice carrying the faint lilt of somewhere north, maybe Vermont from the way the vowels rounded soft. "I'm looking for anything on local herbs. Midwifery texts if you've got 'em." Cora glanced up, her hand pausing on a spine titled Ghosts of the Georgia Lowcountry. The woman, Juliet, she learned later, had eyes like polished river stones, steady and seeing. Not the polite flicker of Elwood gazes, but something deeper, as if she could peer through the varnish of small talk to the grain beneath. "We might have a few," Cora replied, her voice steadier than her pulse. She led her to the back stacks, where the air grew thicker with dust and secrets. As Juliet's fingers brushed hers over a faded volume on folk remedies, Cora felt a spark, not the polite warmth of kin, but a current that hummed low in her chest, awakening hollows she hadn't known were empty. They talked that afternoon, rain drumming a counterpoint on the tin roof. Juliet was new to Elwood, drawn south by a restless pull after nursing school in Burlington. "Needed space to breathe," she said, flipping through pages yellowed with age. "Up north everything's so scheduled. Here it's like the land still holds its breath." Cora nodded, surprised at her own ease, the words spilling like they'd been damned too long. She spoke of the orchards, the way pecans fell heavy in autumn, mirroring the burdens families carried. Juliet listened, not with the half-hearted nods of town gossips, but with a tilt of her head that invited more. When the storm broke, Juliet lingered at the desk. "Come by the clinic sometime," she said, scribbling her number on a scrap of receipt. "I could use a hand with the herb garden. And company that doesn't mind getting dirt under her nails." Cora pocketed the paper like contraband, her heart a quiet drum in the emptying library. That night, as she tucked Mira into bed with stories of fireflies that granted wishes, the scrap burned in her apron. She didn't call, not then. Duty wrapped tighter than kudzu, pulling her back to the farmhouse where Lottie's laughter rang hollow over glasses of sweet tea, and Harlan's boots thudded late into the night. But the seed was planted, rooting in dreams where hands intertwined not in prayer, but in promise. Weeks passed in the slow churn of summer, the air thick as molasses. Cora's routine held, but fractures appeared. Pauses in her steps, glances toward the clinic on Main Street where Juliet's truck, a battered Ford with Vermont plates, sat like an invitation. One sweltering afternoon, after chasing Elias from the creek with mud-caked knees, she found herself there, basket of wilted basil from Lottie's garden in hand. "Thought you might use these," she said through the screen door, voice barely above the cicadas' whine. Juliet emerged from the exam room, sleeves rolled to elbows, a smudge of earth on her cheek. Perfect timing. "Come on back." The clinic was a converted Victorian, its rooms echoing with the ghosts of old remedies, jars of dried lavender on shelves, a bassinet in the corner for prenatal checks. They knelt in the garden behind, soil cool against palms, and talked of roots that delved deep. Juliet shared stories of snowy Vermont winters, where she'd learned to deliver babies by lantern light in remote cabins. "It's about trust," she said, pressing a sprig of rosemary between her fingers. "Letting go, even when it scares you." Cora's throat tightened. She thought of her own roots, tangled in Harlan soil, pulling her under. As the sun dipped, casting long shadows over the tomato vines, Juliet turned to her. "You don't talk much about yourself, Cora. What's keeping you here?" The question landed soft, but it pried. Cora hesitated, dirt crumbling in her fist. "Family," she said simply. "They're all I've got." Juliet's eyes held hers, no pity, just understanding. Family's a word that can hold you or hollow you out. Just make sure it's not the latter. They met like that, in stolen slivers of time. Mornings before the children woke, Cora slipped to the clinic for errands, returning with herbs that masked the flush in her cheeks. Afternoons, when Lottie napped and Harlan was at the yard, she'd walk the orchard paths, Juliet falling into step beside her. Their conversations wove like vines. Juliet's tales of city lights in Boston, where she'd first kissed a girl under neon glow and felt the world shift. Cora's guarded confessions of sketches hidden in drawers, drawings of women with eyes like storms. Laughter came easier, a sound foreign in Cora's throat, bubbling up as they chased fireflies in the meadow or shared cornbread on the clinic steps. One evening, as lightning bugs danced like fallen stars, Juliet reached for her hand. The touch was tentative, fingers lacing slow, and Cora's breath caught, the world narrowing to that point of contact, warm and electric. "I've been waiting for this," Juliet murmured, her voice a thread in the twilight. Cora leaned in, their lips meeting soft as petal fall, tasting of salt and sweetness. In that kiss, barriers crumbled. Cora felt seen, not as the caretaker, but as a woman with hungers of her own. They pulled apart, foreheads touching, and Juliet whispered, "You're more than their shadow, Cora. You're the light." But light casts shadows long. Back at the farmhouse, guilt gnawed like termites in the beams. Cora lay awake, listening to the children's even breaths, wondering if this bloom of feeling was sin or salvation. Lottie noticed the changes, the distant smiles, the late returns. "Everything all right with you?" she'd ask, eyes narrowing over coffee steam. Cora nodded, burying deeper. Yet the pull grew, Juliet's care a balm on wounds Cora hadn't named. She brought soup when Cora's back ached from lifting toddlers, left notes tucked in library books. "You're braver than you know." For the first time, Cora felt anchored not by duty, but by desire, a quiet revolution stirring in her chest. Summer deepened, the heat pressing like a hand on the nape. Their meetings evolved into rituals. Picnics by the river where Juliet taught her to skip stones, each ripple a release. Nights in the clinic attic, converted to a loft with quilts and candlelight, where bodies spoke what words faltered. Juliet's touch was reverent, mapping Cora's skin like sacred ground, drawing out sighs that echoed the rain on the roof. "I see you," she'd say, tracing collarbones, and Cora believed her, believed in the possibility of a life beyond aprons, where love wasn't borrowed but owned. Yet whispers threaded through Elwood. At the diner, glances lingered. At church, Aunt May's Bible study circled like vultures. Cora felt the town's pulse quicken, judgments unspoken but sharp. Lottie grew distant, her embraces cooler, questions laced with barbs. "Who's got you smiling like that, Cora?" "Some fool from town." Cora deflected, but the lie tasted bitter. Juliet sensed it too, her care turning protective, driving her home under cover of dusk, holding her a beat longer at goodbyes. "We don't have to hide forever," she said one night, as thunder rumbled distant. Cora wanted to believe, but the farmhouse loomed, its walls whispering of loyalty's price. Word count 1002. The first chill of autumn brushed Elwood's edges, turning leaves to flame along the dirt roads. Cora moved through her days with a secret rhythm, her steps lighter despite the growing weight in her chest. The children sensed it too, Elias tugging her apron with questions about the nice lady with the truck, Mira drawing pictures of two women holding hands under a rainbow sky. Cora cherished those innocence-tinged moments, folding them into her heart like pressed flowers. But innocence was a luxury Elwood rationed thinly, and the cracks in her facade widened with each stolen hour. Juliet's world became Cora's refuge, a counterpoint to the farmhouse's clamor. The clinic bustled now with harvest ailments and expectant mothers filling the waiting room, but Juliet carved out spaces for them. Lunch breaks in the herb garden, where they'd share slices of peach pie from the bakery, juice dripping like summer's last kiss. "Tell me about your drawings," Juliet urged one noon, as bees hummed lazy around lavender. Cora hesitated, then pulled her notebook from the basket, pages worn soft. Sketches spilled out. Twisting rivers, faces half-shadowed, women with windswept hair gazing at horizons. Juliet traced a line with her fingertip. "Reverent. These are you, Cora. The parts you've kept hidden. They're beautiful." That validation bloomed in Cora, unfurling petals of confidence she hadn't known she craved. She began sketching Juliet. Quick captures of her profile against the window, eyes crinkled in laughter, hands steady over a patient's fevered brow. In those lines, Cora poured the ache of wanting, the curve of a neck, the quiet strength in squared shoulders. Juliet found one evening tucked in the loft and pulled Cora close. "You've captured my soul," she whispered, their embrace deepening into the slow burn of shared breath. Love, Cora realized, wasn't the frantic possession of novels, but this, two souls aligning, steady as the river's flow. Yet the river carried undercurrents. Lottie's suspicions sharpened. Suppers grew tense, silverware clinking like accusations. "You're slipping away," she said one night as Harlan snored in his chair, the children abed. Cora met her gaze, heart pounding. "Just helping at the clinic. Folks need care." Lottie's laugh was brittle. "Care? That's your cross, isn't it? Don't forget who you're carrying it for." The words landed like stones, reminding Cora of the ledger. Years of fevers and falls, scraped knees and shattered plates, all balanced against her quiet rebellion. Town talk fermented too. At the library, Mrs. Hargrove, with her wire-rimmed glasses and perpetual lemon suck, cornered Cora. "Heard you've been keeping company with that Yankee nurse. Fine woman, but, well, you know how tongues wag." Cora's cheeks burned, but she held steady. "Just friends, ma'am." The lie echoed hollow even to her. Juliet faced it head-on, her Vermont steel unyielding. "Let them talk," she'd say, lacing fingers under the clinic table. "I've walked through worse storms." But Cora saw the flicker, Juliet's glances toward the road north, the way her laugh sometimes trailed into silence. Conflict brewed inward first. Cora's dreams tangled. Juliet's face morphing into Lottie's accusatory stare. The children's hands pulling her back from cliffs of freedom. Guilt coiled tight, a serpent in her gut. Was this love selfish, a theft from the family that had raised her? Yet in Juliet's arms doubts dissolved, replaced by a fierce clarity. "You're not stealing," Juliet murmured one dawn, as light slanted through the loft blinds. "You're claiming what's yours. They can't own your heart." Emboldened, Cora tested boundaries. She invited Juliet to the orchard for apple picking, the air crisp with cider scent. The children adored her, Elias clambering for piggyback rides, Mira braiding wildflowers into Juliet's hair. For an hour it felt like family, not fracture. Laughter echoing under the branches, baskets brimming red. Lottie watched from the porch, arms crossed, her smile thin as knife edge. That night, confrontation simmered. "She's good with them," Cora ventured over dishwater. Lottie paused, sponge dripping. "Too good. What's her angle, Cora? Women like that. They come and go." The words stung, laced with the town's underbelly, whispers of that kind of woman, the ones who didn't fit the mold. Cora's temper flared, rare and hot. "She's kind, Lottie. Cares more than most." Her sister's eyes narrowed. "Care? Or something else? I've seen the way you look at her." Silence stretched thick as fog. Cora turned away, suds cold on her skin, the hook of doubt sinking deeper. As leaves fell, their love deepened, roots delving past surface soil. Juliet shared vulnerabilities, a fractured engagement to a man in Boston, the ache of coming out to a family that chose silence over her. "It hollowed me," she admitted, voice raw by the river. "But it taught me to build my own hearth." Cora confessed her fears, the phantom of her parents' accident, the vow she'd whispered at their graves to hold the family whole. "I'm torn," she said, tears salting the water. Juliet held her, unwavering. "Torn doesn't mean broken. It means you're growing." But growth invited storms. One Sunday, after service where the pastor thundered on Sodom's sins, Aunt May pulled Cora aside in the fellowship hall. "That nurse, Juliet. Folks say she's unnatural. And you're spending time." Cora's stomach nodded. "She's a friend, Aunt May. Helps with the sick." The older woman's grip tightened. "Friends don't linger like that. Remember your place, girl. Harlan's don't stray." The warning echoed into evening, as Cora walked Juliet to her truck. "They're circling," she said, voice low. Juliet cupped her face, thumb brushing a tear track. "Then we face it together. Or we leave it behind." The idea dangled. Escape to Atlanta or further, where judgments loosened like old knots. Cora's heart raced at the vision. A small apartment, canvases everywhere, Juliet's hand in hers at markets. But duty anchored heavy as chain. Tension crested mid-autumn. At the county fair where Elwood shed its piety for fried dough and fiddle music. Lottie insisted they go, a rare outing, the children wild with cotton candy. Juliet was there, volunteering at the first aid tent, her smile a beacon in the crowd. Cora stole moments, a shared funnel cake, fingers brushing sticky sweet. But eyes followed. Mrs. Hargrove's pursed lips, Harlan's sidelong glare from the beer tent. As dusk fell, fireworks blooming overhead, Juliet pulled her into the shadowed midway. "Dance with me," she said, sway to the distant banjo. Cora laughed, spinning into her arms, the world blurring to color and pulse. Lottie found them there, arms entangled under the Ferris wheel's glow. Time fractured. "Cora Harlan." The voice whipped like a lash. They sprang apart, but damage bloomed. Lottie's face twisted, shock, betrayal, disgust. "What in God's name?" The children clustered, confused, as townsfolk turned. Juliet stepped forward. "It's not what." But Lottie cut her, eyes on Cora. "You. With her. After everything we've done for you." Harlan loomed, face thunder dark. "Get her out of here." The ride home was a tomb. Children whimpered in the back. Lottie rigid beside Harlan. Cora wedged between silence and shame. "How long?" Lottie finally hissed. Cora's voice broke. "It doesn't matter. I love her." The confession hung defiant yet frail. Harlan's knuckles whitened on the wheel. "Love? That's filth, Cora. Your family. Act like it." That night, the farmhouse seethed. Arguments ricocheted off walls, Lottie's sobs of "How could you betray us?" Harlan's bellows of disgrace. Aunt May's phone calls summoning kin like crows. Cora retreated to the attic, notebook clutched, tears blurring ink. Juliet texted. "I'm here. We fight this." But fight what? The town? Her blood? Dawn brought ultimatums. End it or leave. For the children, Lottie pleaded, eyes red. They need you whole. Cora's heart fractured. Love and loyalty warring like furies. She met Juliet at the clinic, rain sheeting the windows. They know, she whispered. Juliet pulled her close. Then we choose. Us or them. The words terrified, tantalized. Cora thought of Elias's laugh, Myra's drawings. Innocence caught in the crossfire. I can't just walk, she said. Juliet's face fell, but resolve hardened. Then don't. But don't die here, Cora. Not for them. The standoff stretched days, Elwood's whispers swelling to roar. Cora moved ghost-like through routines, feeding mouths while her own starved. Juliet's care persisted. Notes slipped under doors, soup left on porches. But pressure mounted. Church elders visiting, Harlan's threats of disownment. Lottie softened once in the kitchen hush. I love you, Cora. But this. It's poison. Cora's reply burned. Love isn't poison, Lottie. Hiding it is. As November winds stripped trees bare, the internal tempest raged. Cora sketched furiously scenes of flight, of chains snapped. Juliet's presence anchored. Her unwavering care a lighthouse in fog. Yet the pull of family clawed, reminding her of sacrifices etched in bone. Was freedom worth orphaning the only home she'd known? The question haunted, love's flame flickering against duty's gale. Winter's grip tightened on Elwood, frosting windows and hearts alike. Snow dusted the pecan groves rare as mercy, blanketing the town in uneasy hush. Cora navigated the farmhouse like a minefield, her presence tolerated but tainted. The children clung tighter, Myra's nightmares of Auntie leaving. Elias's questions piercing as thorns. Why's Mama mad at you? He'd ask, small hand in hers. Cora swallowed answers, offering hugs instead. Each one a stitch in the unraveling seam of her resolve. Juliet became lifeline and liability. Their meetings shifted underground, midnight walks in the orchard, where frost crunch muffled whispers. Coded messages in library books, pages marked with pressed leaves. Juliet's care deepened, fierce and unyielding. Thermoses of hot cider left at dawn, gloves knitted from scavenged yarn. I'm not going anywhere, she'd say, breath clouding in the cold. But Cora saw the toll. Juliet's eyes shadowed, clinic shifts lengthening as if work could ward off worry. You're worth the fight, Juliet insisted, pulling her into shadowed barns where hay scent mingled with their sighs. There, in fleeting intimacies, Cora found solace. Juliet's fingers weaving through hair, lips tracing collarbones, bodies aligning like puzzle pieces long separated. Yet the town's siege pressed. Gossip metastasized. Notes slipped under clinic doors, patients canceling with mumbled excuses. Mrs. Hargrove led the charge at Bible study, her voice honeyed venom. That Yankee's leading our Cora astray. We must pray for deliverance. Lottie attended, her silence complicity. Cora overheard fragments, each barb embedding deeper. Family gatherings turned interrogations. Cousins probing with feigned concern. Uncles muttering of Harlan name besmirched. Harlan's rage simmered to cold fury. He barred the clinic door to Cora's errands, assigning Lottie instead. No more poison, he growled. Isolation clawed at Cora, amplifying doubts. Nights blurred into vigils, staring at ceiling cracks like maps to escape. She dreamed of Juliet's face dissolving into Lottie's accusatory stare, waking sweat damp to the children's cries. Guilt festered. Had her love cursed the innocents? Myra's fever one midnight forced a breach. Cora bundling her to the clinic despite Harlan's edict. Juliet's hands, steady as ever, cooled the brow, administered tinctures. Thank you, Cora whispered as dawn grayed the room. Juliet's reply was a kiss to the forehead. Always. That act ignited backlash. Harlan discovered the visit, his bellow shaking rafters. You went to her? After everything. Lottie intervened, tears streaming. She's family, Harlan. But this. It's destroying us. The argument spilled into dawn, voices raw. Cora stood firm. Destroying? Or revealing? I've given everything, my youth, my dreams. This is the first real piece of me. Harlan's face purpled. Real? It's abomination. Leave or make it right. Ultimatum crystallized. Cora fled to the river, ice-fringed banks mocking her turmoil. Juliet found her there, coat flapping like wings. They're breaking you, she said, enveloping her in wool and warmth. Cora leaned in, sobs muffled. I don't know how to choose. Juliet's voice steadied. You choose you. We built from there. The words tempted but terror-rooted. Visions of Lottie alone with the brood, children adrift without her songs. Betrayal brewed subtle. Lottie, in a moment of fractured sisterhood, confessed over tea one gray afternoon. I found your sketches. Her everywhere. Cora's blood chilled. They're mine, Lottie. Her sister's eyes welled. But they're not right. For us. For the children. The invasion stung, but worse was the plea beneath. Fear of losing Cora, twisted into control. That night, Lottie burned the notebook in the backyard fire pit, flames devouring Juliet's likenesses. Cora watched from the window, ash bitter on tongue. Why? She confronted later, voice ash hollow. Lottie's reply. To save you. From yourself. The axe severed something irrevocable. Cora's loyalty frayed. Threads snapping one by one. She sought Juliet at the clinic, finding her packing boxes, herbs bundled, charts filed. What is this? Cora's voice cracked. Juliet turned, face etched with resolve. Town's turning. Last patient canceled today, said it ain't Christian. I can't stay where I'm poison. Panic surged. No. We fight. Juliet cupped her cheeks. Fighting means you leave too. With me. The proposition dangled a precipice. Cora returned home fractured, Harlan's glare a wall. Days blurred into standoff. Cora cooking mechanically, tucking children with mechanical smiles, her spirit retreating inward. Juliet's text ceased, replaced by a single letter slipped under the door. The north calls but my heart stays south. If you come I'll wait. If not, know I love you enough to let go. G. Winter solstice approached, bonfires dotting fields for wassail nights. Elwood donned festive masks, but undercurrents roiled. At the town hall's holiday fair, confrontation erupted. Cora manned the library booth, selling wreaths when Juliet appeared. Uninvited, unyielding. Bought one, she said, handing coins, eyes locking. The air thickened, whispers swirled. Lottie arrived, children in tow, face ashen. You shouldn't be here. Juliet's chin lifted. I have as much right as anyone. Chaos ignited. Harlan stormed in, voice booming. Get out, witch. Shoves followed, townsfolk circling. Cora stepped between, heart hammering. Stop. She's done nothing. But the melee escalated. Mira screaming as elbows jostled. Elias clinging to legs. In the fray, Juliet took a elbow to the ribs, crumpling. Cora knelt, cradling her. Blood from a split lip staining snow. I'm fine, Juliet gasped, but eyes pleaded, choose. Sirens wailed distant. The crowd dispersed like smoke. Back home, recriminations flew. Lottie hysterical. See what you've brought? Violence on our children. Harlan. Pack her things. She's gone tomorrow. Cora's world tilted. In the attic amid dust motes she penned a note. I can't bury this. Forgive me. But forgiveness felt distant as stars. Dawn broke brittle. Cora rose, packing a single bag, sketchpad salvaged from ashes. A sprig of lavender from Juliet's garden. The children stirred. Myra's sleepy hug undid her. Don't go, Auntie. Tears choked. Just for a bit, Petal. I'll write stories. Lottie watched from the hall, face a mask of grief and resolve. You're killing us, Cora. No reply sufficed. Cora walked out, door clicking final as Judgment Day. The clinic stood empty, Juliet's truck vanished. A note on the door. Atlanta first, then north. Find me when you're free. Cora hitched to the bus station. Elwood shrinking rear view. Freedom tasted of bile and wind. Love's echo a hollow ache. But in the rumble of tires a spark ignited. Whispers of canvases, open skies, a hand waiting to lace with hers. The bus jolted north from Elwood, carrying Cora through Georgia's red clay veins into the sprawl of Atlanta's concrete pulse. City lights smeared past windows like shooting stars, mocking the small-town dark she'd fled. Her bag slumped at feet, meager as her courage, containing the salvaged sketchpad, a change of clothes and Juliet's letter, creased from endless readings. Exhaustion warred with exhilaration. Freedom was a bird with clipped wings soaring tentative. She booked a cheap motel off Peachtree, the room smelling of stale smoke and regret, and collapsed onto the sagging bed. Sleep came fitful dreams of children's faces dissolving into Juliet's bloodied lip. Morning brought clarity's edge. Cora wandered Fulton Street, skyscrapers looming like indifferent gods, sidewalks thrumming with lives unbound by blood oaths. She found a diner, nursing coffee black as her mood, and dialed the only number she knew by heart, Lottie's. It rang endless then clicked. Cora. Lottie's voice, raw as winter wind. Where are you? Silence stretched. Cora's throat closed. Atlanta. I needed air. Lies crumbled fast. The children miss you. Elias won't eat. Mira asks for stories. Guilt knife deep. Tell them I'm coming back. Soon. Lottie's sob broke. When? This house is empty without you. Cora hung up, tears salting the mug, the ledger unbalanced at last. She tracked Juliet through scraps, a mutual acquaintance from nursing circles, a forwarded message. Greyhound to Burlington, layover Charlotte. Heart waits. Cora's pulse raced. Redemption or folly? She bought a ticket southbound, the bus a steel cocoon for unraveling thoughts. En route she sketched furiously scenes of fracture. The farmhouse porch splintered, Lottie's face half-shadowed in regret, Juliet's form reaching across divides. Art became confessor, lines bleeding emotion onto paper. Charlotte's station buzzed chaos. Cora scanned crowds, heart a drum. Then there by the coffee stand Juliet, braid frayed, eyes scanning like a sentinel. Their gaze locked. Time stuttered. Juliet dropped her bag, closing distance in strides. You came. Arms enveloped, fierce and forgiving. Cora inhaling the scent of rosemary and resolve. I had to, she murmured into shoulder. Couldn't let go. They boarded together, hands clasped white-knuckled, the miles unspooling like thread from a spool. Vermont unfolded in winter's stark poetry. Snow-blanketed hills, evergreens etched black against skies of hammered tin. Juliet's cabin perched on Lake Champlain's edge, a weathered A-frame with smoke curling from chimney. Inside warmth bloomed, fire crackling, quilts piled, shelves groaning under herb jars and medical tomes. Home, Juliet said, voice soft, guiding Cora to the hearth. They talked through night, words tumbling like avalanche. Cora's flight, the burned sketches, Lottie's pleas. Juliet listened, then shared her own scars. Letters from Vermont kin, polite disownments wrapped in scripture. We rebuild, she said, fingers tracing Cora's palm. Brick by brick. Days blurred into healing's tentative rhythm. Cora explored the snow-crusted woods, boots crunching virgin powder, breath clouding prayers of absolution. Juliet resumed shifts at the local clinic, a quieter outpost than Elwood's viper nest, and Cora tagged along, assisting with inventories, charming patients with southern drawl. You're a natural, Juliet teased, as an elderly farmer warmed to her stories. Cora blushed, the praise a balm. Evenings they cooked, stews simmering with foraged roots, bread rising like hope, intimacy rebuilt slow, touches lingering over dishwater, kisses deepening by firelight, bodies rediscovering trust in tangled sheets. But fractures lingered. Letters arrived from Elwood, Lottie's scrawls ink-blotched. Children fading without you. Come fix this. Elias's crayon drawing enclosed. A stick-figure family with a gap where Cora stood. Guilt resurged, a tide pulling south. Cora paced the cabin, sketchpad abandoned. Am I selfish? She asked Juliet one blizzard-bound night, wind howling eaves. Juliet pulled her close. Selfish is staying silent. This is survival. Yet doubt not. Cora booked a call to Aunt May, voice trembling. How are they? The elder's tone iced. Broken. Bayou. Repent, child, before it's late. The line died, leaving Cora hollow. Crisis crested in February's thaw when news crackled. Harlan's heart attack. Felled in the lumber yard. Lottie's frantic call pierced the calm. He's bad, Cora. Call me. For family. Panic surged. Cora packed, Juliet's hand steadying. Go, she urged. But come back. This is home now. The flight south was torment, skies mocking with cotton clouds. Elwood greeted gray, orchard skeletal, farmhouse sagging under grief. Reunion fractured. Lottie fell into arms, sobbing. You came. The children mobbed, Myra's hug vice-tight. Missed you, Auntie. Harlan lay pale in the county hospital, monitors beeping dirge. He stirred at her approach, eyes flickering accusation to something softer. Cora. Voice rasped. Fix. Us. She nodded, throat burning, nights blurring into vigils, spooning broth reading to Elias by bedside. Lottie confessed in hushed tones. I burned your book out of fear. Of losing you two. That. Cora forgave words bomb. You won't. But I won't hide. Convalescence brought uneasy truce. Harlan discharged, weak but walking. Grudging thanks murmured over cornbread. Town whispers dulled, focused on mill drama. Cora stayed weeks, mending rifts, walks with Mira, fishing with Elias, suppers where laughter crept tentative. Lottie softened, sharing tea on the porch. She, Juliet, makes you glow. I see it. Cora's heart unclenched. She does. Like you and the children do for me. Understanding dawned, fragile as spring buds. But Pull North tugged insistent. Juliet's letters waited. Cabin empty without your sketches. Hurry home. Cora lingered, testing waters, introducing Juliet via call, Lottie's ear pressed close. Tell her thanks for the herbs. Progress inching. One evening as fireflies ghosted early, Cora gathered kin on the porch. I'm going back. But not forever. Visits, calls. We're family, twisted but true. Tears flowed, hugs lingered. Elias gifted a drawing. Cora and Juliet, hands linked under Vermont stars. For your new home. Return north sealed rebirth. Juliet met at the airport, embrace fierce. Told you we'd rebuild. Spring unfurled, lakes thawing to blue, crocuses piercing snow. Cora enrolled in art classes at the community college, canvases blooming with color. Southern roots twining northern boughs, women entwined against horizons. Juliet's clinic thrived, Cora volunteering. Their life a tapestry woven dual. Roots south, branches wide. Yet echoes lingered. Lottie's calls bridged divides. Children's voices bridging gaps. One summer they visited Elwood, cautious pilgrimage. Town stared but stares softened. Juliet charmed with remedies, children bridged with games. On the porch swing, Lottie whispered. You were right. Love heals even the hard kind. Cora smiled, Juliet's hand warm in hers. Freedom, she learned, wasn't flight, but flight in return, claiming space without severing ties. Summer's zenith crowned Vermont in emerald. Lake Champlain glittering like shattered glass under relentless sun. Cora's life in the cabin had settled into a cadence of creation and care. Mornings sketching by the water. Afternoons at the clinic folding linens or charming fractious toddlers. Juliet's presence was constant anchor. Her laughter a melody weaving through chores. Yet beneath the idle undercurrents stirred. Letters from Elwood growing sparse, Lottie's voice on calls edged with strain. Harlan's pushing for normalcy, she'd say. Folks still talk. Cora nodded into the receiver, heart twinging. Reconciliation was a bridge half-built, swaying under weight. Art class became Cora's exhale. In the stuffy studio of Burlington Community, surrounded by aspiring painters and their turpentine haze, she poured Elwood's ghosts onto canvas. Her first piece, a sprawling triptych. The farmhouse porch in twilight, figures blurred in confrontation. A distant road snaking north to figures embracing under aurora. The instructor, a wiry woman named Theo with paint-flecked glasses, paused at her easel. Raw power here. What's the story? Cora hesitated, then spilled. Flight, love, the ache of divided loyalties. Theo nodded. That's the vein. Mine it. Exhibits followed, tentative, local co-op shows where her works hung beside pottery and quilts. Juliet attended every, pride radiant as she sipped cheap wine. There you, she'd say, tracing gallery labels. Cora Harlan, threats of return. Sales trickled. A watercolor to a lesbian couple honeymooning from Boston, who lingered to share stories of their own exiles. This speaks our language, the taller one said, eyes misty. Cora flushed, validation blooming. For the first time her inner world met outer unjudged. Juliet's world paralleled, her practice expanding. House calls to remote farms, workshops on herbal birth control drawing women from shadowed corners. Empowerment, she called it, eyes alight over dinner. Cora watched, admiration deepening to reverence. Their nights wove intimate, Slow dances in the kitchen to radio crooners, bodies swaying to rhythms of shared breath. Love matured, less urgent flame, more steady hearth. Conversations delving philosophies, dreams murmured post-climax, fingers mapping scars like constellations. But fractures from south resurfaced. A package arrived unannounced. Elias's old toy truck, wrapped in news clippings, Elwood Gazette headlines of moral decay in our midst, veiled jabs at the Yankee influence. Lottie's note, Harlan found these, says it's time you face facts. Rage simmered. Cora burned the papers in the fire pit, ashes scattering like judgments. Juliet found her there, face streaked. They're scared, she soothed. Of what you represent change. Cora leaned in. But I'm still theirs. Crisis ignited via midnight call. Myra's appendix burst, surgery botched in the understaffed clinic. Lottie's voice shattered. She's asking for you, Cora. Fever dreams of your stories. Heart seizing, Cora booked the red eye. Juliet driving to the airport, grip fierce. Go heal. I'll hold here. Southbound again, skies stormy mirroring turmoil. Elwood's hospital reeked of antiseptic and memory. Mira lay small tubes snaking, eyes fluttering open at Cora's whisper. Auntie. Fireflies. Cora sang lullabies, hand in tiny palm, nights blurring into vigils. Lottie collapsed in hallway, grief's dam breaking. I pushed you away. For what? Pride. Cora held her, sisters mending in saline light. Harlan hovered distant, but softened at bedside, gruff pats murmured, glad you're here. Recovery stretched weeks. Cora stayed, weaving normalcy. School runs, orchard picnics, bedtime tales. Town thawed fractional, Mrs. Hargrove dropping pie with for the girl. Eyes averted. Juliet sent care packages. Tinctures, notes. Tell Mira the fireflies say heal fast. Departure loomed bittersweet. Mira discharged, color returning, clung tight. Take me north. Cora knelt. Someday, petal. Adventures await. Lottie walked her to the bus, envelope pressed in hand. Open later. Inside. The burned notebook's remnants, salvaged pages framed in glass. Juliet's portrait intact. Keep creating, Lottie said. We're proud. Quietly. Northbound, renewal crested. Cora returned to canvas with fervor. Series emerging. Bridges spanning rivers, families, selves. Juliet proposed expansion. Co-hosting women's retreats at the cabin. Art and healing intertwined. Your stories, my remedies, she said, eyes sparkling. Cora agreed, heart full. First gathering drew 8, women from fractured homes, sharing circles by the lake. Cora led sketches, capturing vulnerabilities. Juliet facilitated talks on boundaries. Bonds formed, tentative as spring ice. Climax brewed unexpected. Invitation to Elwood's Harvest Festival, Lottie's olive branch. Come. Show your art. Face them. Trepidation ward excitement. Cora packed canvases, Juliet the truck. Arrival stirred ghosts, orchards golden, stairs lingering. Booth setup drew crowds. Townsfolk pausing at threads, whispers shifting to awe. That's our Cora, Elias boasted to gawkers. Harlan bought a print, gruff. Nice work. Lottie hugged Juliet, awkward. Thanks for everything. Evening bonfire climax catharsis. Around flames kin gathered. Stories swapped, laughter tentative. A drunk uncle slurred old barbs. Harlan silenced him sharp. Enough. She's family. Cora's chest eased. Juliet's hand squeezed, anchor. Later by the river, sisters talked deep. I was wrong, Lottie admitted. Feared losing you to freedom. But freedom made you whole. Cora teared. You taught me roots. She taught wings. Return north sealed transformation. Exhibit in Burlington sold out. A gallery scout approached. Major show potential. Cora's name etched bolder. With Juliet, life deepened, talks of adoption perhaps or fostering city strays. Love's arc bent toward legacy. Caring not as duty but choice. Yet humanity's shadow lingered. News of Mrs. Hargrove's passing, cancer unspoken, prompted reflection. Cora sent flowers south, note. May bridges build beyond. Lottie's reply, they are. In Vermont's fall blaze, Cora sketched finale. Women linked across divides, hands outstretched, horizons infinite. Value etched. Love defies blame, family evolves beyond blood. Freedom whispers to the chained, rise. Autumn's palette painted Vermont in fire. Maples blazing crimson, lakes mirroring the blaze. Cora's ascent accelerated. The Burlington Gallery show, Roots and Wings, drew crowds from Boston, critics murmuring of Southern Gothic infused with queer resilience. Sold pieces funded a studio shed behind the cabin, walls papered in children's letters from Elwood, Elias's scrawls of "Come play trucks," Myra's illustrated epics. Juliet teased, "You're famous, Harlan." Cora laughed, pulling her into sawdust embrace. "We're famous. Together." Life's weave tightened. The women's retreats evolved annual, cabins rented lakeside, drawing dozens, survivors of conversion camps, mothers disowned for daughters' loves, artists silenced by kin. Cora facilitated dawn sketches, capturing collective scars. Juliet led evening circles on radical care. Bonds forged. A young poet from Portland staying months, co-authoring zines on Appalachian queer lore. "You gave me language," she told Cora, voice thick. Cora waved it off. "We give each other mirrors." South ties strengthen, bridges arch sturdy. Quarterly visits to Elwood, Thanksgivings with Harlan carving turkey awkward, Christmases where Mira unveiled homemade ornaments. Two women under stars. Lottie bloomed confidant, calls veering personal. Harlan's softer now. Talks retirement, maybe travel. Cora shared triumphs, show invites to Savannah galleries, Juliet's expansion to telehealth for rural lesbians. "Proud," Lottie said, simple. "Of all." Intimacy with Juliet deep and mythic. Years honed them. Anniversaries marked with lake picnics, rings exchanged casual under harvest moon. Silver bands etched with intertwined vines. "Eternal," Juliet whispered, sliding hers on. Nights they explored uncharted. Role-play whispers of southern belles fleeing plantations for frontier loves. Laughter dissolving into moans. Bodies familiar terrain yielded new peaks. Juliet's fingers eliciting shudders, Cora's mouth drawing gasps. Love season burned eternal. Crisis shadowed periphery. Aunt May's decline. Dementia clouding the woman who'd once wielded scripture as whip. Cora flew south, Juliet in tow. The elder lay frail in nursing home. Eyes flickering recognition. "Cora. The devil's work." Voice quavered. Cora knelt, hand in papery. "No, Aunt. Just love. Like God's, fierce and free." May's grip tightened, brief, tears tracing. "Forgive me." Release came peaceful, funeral a town affair. Whispers of Cora's fancy life laced respect. Harlan eulogized. "She held us tight. Even when we pushed." Cora scattered ashes by the river. Juliet's arms steel. Awakening rippled. Back north, Cora channeled grief into monument. Community mural in Burlington, echoes of care. Portraits of women like May, rigid then redeemed, hands reaching. Dedication drew Lottie south, children wide-eyed at the throng. "Beautiful," she breathed, tracing May's face. Elias, taller now, nudged. "Auntie, paint me next?" Cora ruffled hair. "Deal, sprout." Climax crested personal. Juliet's proposal for family. Foster? Or adopt? A child needing roots like ours. Cora's heart swelled, visions of tiny hands in sketches, lullabies by lake. Agency visits followed, home studies probing scars. "Your story's strength," the social worker said. Approval came spring, matching swift. A 4-year-old girl, Lena, from Georgia, foster churn, dark curls, eyes haunted as Cora's once were. Integration tested. Lena arrived wary, clutching bare, flinching at touches. Nights of nightmares, days of tentative trust. Juliet's stories soothing fevers, Cora's drawings coaxing smiles. Breakthrough came lakeside. Lena dipping toes, giggling splash. Again. Cora and Juliet exchanged looks, triumph quiet. Elwood visit introduced her. Children mobbing cousin Lottie baking pies. "She fits," Mira declared. Harlan gruff. "Good stock." Betrayal's echo faded, replaced by legacy. Cora's book emerged, Unbound Threads. A memoir in canvas. Southern presses hungry, launches in Atlanta drawing kin. Readings cathartic. Voicing the flight, the burn, the bridge. Q&A brimmed questions. How forgive? Cora paused. By seeing them human. Flawed as us. Juliet beamed from audience, ring glinting. Winter's Eve snow mantling family gathered cabin. Lena on rug with blocks. Lottie video calling from Elwood Blaze. Toasts raised. To cares unbroken, blames dissolved. Juliet pulled Cora porchward. Stars pricking velvet sky. We made it. Cora leaned, breath mingling. More than that. We mended. Dusk deepened. Inside, laughter swelled. Cora reflected. Journey from shadow to light. Duty to desire, fracture to whole. Message etched eternal. Love defies decree. Family forges anew. Humanity thrives in vulnerability's grace. In Juliet's arms under Vermont's vast, Cora whispered thanks. To blood, to chosen, to self unchained. Years wove forward, Vermont's seasons cycling like breath. Winters burying old wounds, springs unearthing blooms. Lena grew fierce. 8 now, curls wild, fingers stained with paints from Cora's studio. She claimed the cabin as kingdom, bossing mamas with imperious grin. Juliet yielding to bedtime pleas for one more herb tale. Cora surrendering brushes for mud pies. Family expanded fractal. Elwood visits ritual, summers south where Lena chased cousins through orchards. Harlan teaching whittling with gnarled hands. Like her, he'd mutter, nodding at Cora. Stubborn good. Cora's art ascended constellations. Unbound Threads bestseller in niche circles. Tours threading coasts. Savannah readings where Lottie front row teared. Oregon panels debating queer Southern survival. Galleries clamored. A Manhattan solo show capped decade. Cares Continuum. Installations blending canvas and fiber. Threads literal linking portraits. Lottie's resolute gaze, Juliet's steady eyes, Lena's impish smirk. May's faded forgiveness. Critics hailed humanist triumph. But Cora prized anonymous note slipped post-opening. Your story freed mine. A Southern sister. Juliet's legacy paralleled. Clinic network birthed. Satellite outreaches in Georgia lowlands. Training midwives in inclusive care. No woman left shadowed. Her mantra. Retreats scaled. Scholarships funding young healers. Together they parented not just Lena but Ment's foster kin orbiting. A trans teen from Burlington summers. A poet fleeing Texas winters. Home pulse communal suppers raucous with tales. Love's flame tempered glowed profound. Anniversaries marked pilgrimages. Elwood River for renewal vows. Champlain Shore for quiet rites. Intimacies evolved intimate. Mornings slow, bodies familiar as home, explorations tender. Juliet's mouth eliciting arches. Cora's hands drawing sighs. Still you, Juliet murmured post-glow, fingers tracing silver in hair. Cora smiled. Eternal us. Echoes of origin surfaced gentle. Lottie's call one harvest. Harlan's retiring. Selling the yard. Thinking. North? Visit more. Cora's heart leaped. Cabin's big. Room for all. Transition unfolded. Harlan and Lottie relocating partial. Snowbirding winters south. Grandkids, Elias's twins, Myra's impending. Filled gaps, chaos cherished. Aunt May's shadow dissolved in stories. Lena's favorite. Great-great's big heart, slow learn. Crisis minor now. Lena's schoolyard taunt. Your mom's weird. Met Cora's calm. Weird wonderful. Like you. Home circle fortified. Juliet's wisdom anchoring. Armor is story shared. Town halls followed, Cora guest speaking at Elwood revivals. Once viper nests, now venues for dialogue. Blame blinds, she said to rapt faces. Care connects. Awakening collective crested national. Documentary pitch on Threads, filmmakers captivated by ARC filming wove summers. Cabin interviews, Elwood porch confessions. Lake swims with Lena cannonballing joy. Premiere Toronto, kin flown. Lottie dabbing eyes, Harlan nodding gruff. Standing ovation thundered. Post panel, stranger approached. Your blame to bridge. It's gospel for us exiles. Cora hugged, tears salt. Finale whispered autumnal. Cabin porch, leaves drifting gold, family sprawled. Lena sketching. Juliet strumming guitar soft. Lottie and Harlan rocking chairs creak. Elias phoned. Myra's boy here. Uncle soon. Laughter rippled. Coraline Juliet voice low. Full circle. Juliet kiss temple. And expanding. Night fell star-strewn. Fireflies ghosted, kin long past. Cora reflected arc. From used vessel to vessel pouring. Care reclaimed. Love unblamed. Humanity's weave infinite. Message endures. Society's shackle but souls slip free. Betrayal births awakening. Freedom forges family anew. In twilight's hush, Cora sketched horizon. Figures linked, hands open, skies boundless. Dusk deepened. Love eternal whispered on.